this message, I thirst. And I hope and pray these broken words and these broken thoughts, what God has given to me, will definitely speak to us and revive us once again. I was recapitulating about God's creation in Genesis, which says, when God created, He created the heaven and the earth. And when we look down in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 6, it says, He created a firmament and there He divided the firmament. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 6, it is very clearly written, stating that about the creation. Genesis 1, Genesis 1 and chapter 6, verse 1 verse 6 says, and God said, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. He clearly says that the earth was void without any form, and then He made the firmament, and then He divided the firmament above and below, and He created the waters. And when you look further down regarding the people of Israel, God was so kind enough that when He has brought them out of Egypt, out of the 10 plagues, and brought them out, the first difficulty or the first hurdle they encountered was the Red Sea. And here, He's a God who divided the Red Sea into two halves and made the people of Israel to walk on dry land. And again, further we see in the journey, when there was no water, God asked Moses, his leader, to smite the rock, and the water gushed out. And in another instance, He says, you speak to the rock, and the water came. Imagine the God who created the heaven and earth and the waters, took the form of a human being, came into this world, and finally, on that cross, He says this word, I thirst. If you go back, if you look at the way how He has come to this situation, the punishment that He bore before He was nailed on the cross, people who ever committed any mistake was given lashes on the back. Basically, they would be tied up to a post, and then the back would be exposed. And according to the judgment given, pronounced, they would be given lashes. And as far as I have gone through the word, at least 40 lashes, maximum would be 40 lashes, depending upon the severity of the punishment, depending upon the crime. And when you look at the whip, this whip not only was wound well, but it had 3 hooks. And with that, every lash would pull out some form of flesh, and there would bleed. And the maximum, they said, was 40 lashes. And imagine a situation like this, when Jesus was whipped and lashed, back would have been furrowed, back would have been really injured, and blood gushing out from it. And to add to this scene was the scene that He had to carry His own cross on to Golgotha. And this was a hilly place, and it was a hilly place, and He had to carry His own cross. And the time it's a 6th hour, somewhere in the afternoon. Looking at the sun, looking at the temperature, looking at the pain that He has undergone, and added to the pain, the heaviness of the burden of the cross, He was climbing up the hill. And imagine what a situation it'd be. But at this point of time, added to this, He had to carry the cross. Generally, myrrh mixed with vinegar would be given to the person who would be crucified, because myrrh would numb the person, or help him to go through that difficult situation. But when he was given initially, he rejected it because his aim was to complete the work that God has given him at the cross. And he said, and because he was goal oriented and he wanted to finish his work. And at the time when he was on the cross, he spoke the fifth word, I thirst. All the previous words that he spoke on the cross were for others, but this he spoke on his own, stating that I thirst. Thirst, imagine a God who created the whole universe and the waters and great waters in his creation would say, I thirst. Thirst is a sign of life. Thirst is a sign of life. When a person has lost a lot of water, there's automatically a stimulus which is given to the brain stating that he needs water. And that's how the reaction of thirst comes in. And the way we look is for the signs of dehydration, the water being lost, the blood being lost, and not only because of the injury as well as due to heat, but at the same time, whenever we look for a patient, for a person with dehydration, we check for his pulse, we check for his BP, and we try and hydrate him to the best extent so that his BP and pulse would be maintained. But here, when he said thirst, instead of giving water, they gave him vinegar mixed with gall. Hunger and thirst, both are normal human reactions. You physically hunger and you physically thirst. Spiritually also, you hunger and you thirst. Just as physical body thirsts for water, the spiritual thirst is to seek God. And there's a thirst in every human soul to seek God. John chapter 4, verses 5 to 11 speaks of a person, a Samaritan woman, whose thirst was quenched by Jesus. John chapter 4, verses 5 to 11 speaks about Jesus quenching the thirst of a Samaritan lady. And when you look at the whole story, it shows, the Bible says very clearly, says that it was the sixth hour, and Jesus, it was in the sixth hour, the Bible very clearly says, and a certain man was there. John chapter 4 and verses 5 to 11 speaks about, then cometh he to the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground of Jacob, his son. And Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, therefore, wearied with all his journey, sat on the well, and it was about a sixth hour. Can you look at the whole situation? Jesus taking a journey through Samaria, waiting at a well in the afternoon, at 12 o'clock, waiting for a person so that he could meet a person. And here we can see a Samaritan woman, a Samaritan woman who was visiting the well every day at 12 in the afternoon. Probably when you look at the whole character, this lady did not have a good reputation, and the well was a place of a social gathering, and women would come, chit chat, laugh, and go. And this lady, because of her testimony, would not love to be there at that point of time. So she chose an hour where not many people would be found. At 12 in the afternoon, she comes there in order to draw well. And Jesus asks her to give him water to drink. She looking at him, a Jew at the well, was asking, and she being a Samaritan, this was a totally a contrast situation. No Jewish man or no Jewish person would ask water from a Samaritan woman. And in India, when somebody asks, when you want to begin a conversation, you ask, give me some water. And in India, And when somebody asks you water, they say it's something which is good. They say it's punyam, and that's how they want to do it. But here was a lady who said, "How is that you being a Jew ask of a Samaritan water?" And Jesus said, and Jesus, and again the second question that she raised was, "Okay, you're asking me for water, but where is that? Where do you have? Do you have any vessel so that I can draw it and give it to you?" Jesus said, "No vessel." And she said, "The well is too deep for, and we have nothing to draw." Jesus answered and said to her, "Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, How is that? You being a Jew, ask a drink of me, which I am a woman of Samaria, for Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Jesus answered and said to her, "If thou knewest the gift of God, who is that saith to thee, give me drink, that thou would have asked of him, he would have given living water. The woman said unto him, Sir, there was nothing to draw, and the well is deep, and whence thou art a living water? And Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water, drinketh of the water that I shall give, shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him, in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. He encountered this lady, and he said, Whosoever drinketh of the water, of this water I give, shall never thirst, and the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well water springing up to everlasting life. And this lady was looking for that water because she was all the time thinking physically that she had no need to come to the well to draw water. And if this water is there, she may not thirst again. The Samaritan lady asked Jesus, Give me that water so that I need not come to the well and draw. Jesus was talking to her about the spiritual need and the inner thirst, but the lady was always thinking of the physical water. He asked her one question, Where is your husband? And she answers and says to him, I have none. Though Jesus knows her life very well, instead of condemning, he acknowledged her and said, What you said is right. You had 5 husbands, and the present one is not yours. And finally, to cut the story short, he continues the conversation till the point of Messiah, till the point of Messiah. And because she says, when Messiah comes, he will lead us into all truths. He will lead us into all truths. Jesus reveals himself and says, I that speak unto you, I am he. I that speak unto you, I am he. She left the water pot and went her way into the city and told all men to see a person who told everything, whatever I did. Instead of filling the water, she goes to the city and invites all men, Come see a man who showed me all things that ever I have done. Is he not Christ? Broken words, indirect speech, introduce the Savior. The whole man of the city came to know Christ. God quenched the spiritual thirst of the Samaritan woman. As the heart panteth after the waters, my heart panteth for thee, O Lord. Psalms 42:1 says, As the heart, as the deer panteth for water, so my heart panteth for thee, O Lord. Today, he's calling you. Are you thirsty? Come to me. I'll give you living water. Today, he's calling you. Are you thirsty? Come to me. I'll give you living water. That day on the cross, Jesus Christ was thirsting. Jesus Christ was thirsting. He was thirsting for your soul and my soul. He was thirsting so that he would win your soul and my soul. You have not tasted the waters. He's inviting you today. Come. And to all of us. And today he's also asking another question. To all of us who know the Lord, He's asking, what are you thirsting for? What are you thirsting for? Or is your thirst for the riches? Before you finish, what are you thirsting for? Let your thirst maybe for your Savior. Before you finish, he's asking you one question. What are you thirsting for? Let your thirst maybe the same as that of your Savior. Before I finish my preaching, I will tell you a small story which I've experienced. This was a 14-year-old girl who was diagnosed as cancer lung in stage 4. One of the government hospitals have sent her away, stating that nothing much can be done. She was lying in the church compound. The servant of God called me and said, Joseph, do something so that she might reach there. I do not know. I just asked, servant of God, kindly pray for us so that I may be able to treat her. And that night, I took her in my car to the hospital. I spoke to the doctor in charge that night. Kindly take care of her this night. Tomorrow I want to see her again. But I prayed one small prayer, Lord, please keep her for this night. Next morning, I got a chance to go see her. I examined her, evaluated her. I found that she was an advanced disease. But still, I tried giving her chemotherapy. And she started responding. At that point of time, I got a chance to speak to her, to give the gospel. She accepted Christ. And after that, while she was coming regularly for her chemotherapy treatment, she asked me, sir, there is a youth camp or a youth conference going on. I want to go for it. I said, why? She said to me, I want to testify the waters of baptism. I was afraid within my heart, stating that already she has a lung cancer. And in the crowd and in the water, if she gets another infection, how do I go about it? But some voice told me, who are you? Only treat. It is I who heal. And after that, when she would come back to the hospital, and if the weekend is close by, and if it's a Sunday, a Saturday with a sly smile, she would ask me, sir, can you give me permission so that I can go to the church? I asked her why. She would only say one word, I want to take part in the Lord's table. I want to take part in the Lord's table. And the same question used to rise in the crowd, if you get another infection. The same answer was the same. It is you who treat, but I who heal. So she used to go, come back. Whenever in the free time, whenever I saw her, all I saw her was she would gather all the patients, maximum patients in the world, and share her testimony and share the gospel. This was her thirst. This was her thirst for Christ. I like this lovely song sung by one of the Bakshing's co-workers, Brother Yesupa. Sang this song. Isaiah 51:1 says, oh, all that thirst, let him come to the waters. You need not pay a price. It is free. It is free. It's asking you. It's inviting you. Today, on Good Friday, his invitation is the same. I thirst for you. Come to the waters. Quench your thirst. I'll make you a vessel out of whom rivers of living water will flow. He's calling you. Quench your thirst. and I'll make you a vessel of which living waters flow. I know God has spoken to you. God has spoken to you. Let us acknowledge Him and submit ourselves to His words. He is trusting for you and for your soul. Thank you.